Caroline Dowd-Higgins. Thank you for listening to Your Working Life, my podcast series featuring thought leaders in the career and personal growth arena. You spend a significant portion of your life at work, so my goal is to provide you with tools, inspiration, and resources so you can enjoy your career and love your life. And I am delighted to welcome a very special dynamic duo to the show today, Karie Willyerd and Barbara Mistick. Welcome.
Well, thanks. It's great to be here. Thank you.
Yes, Kat. Wait to get started.
We're feeling very dynamic right now.
Well, you are. So more power to you. I can feel you through the podcast. But Karie and Barbara, let me tell our listening audience a little bit about you, and then we're going to dive into a juicy conversation about the book. Karie Willyerd is a workplace futurist at SuccessFactors, an SAP human capital software company. Prior to that, she was the co-founder and CEO of Jambok, the industry's first video-based informal social learning software platform, which was acquired by SuccessFactors in March 2011. Barbara Mistick is the president of Wilson College. Recently, she made history, pioneering the nation's first loan buyback program for college students. She's a seasoned entrepreneur and was named a Distinguished Service Professor at Carnegie Mellon University. Her public service advocacy on behalf of entrepreneurs has won numerous awards from the U.S. Small Business Administration, Ernst & Young, and the Girl Scouts of America. Now, ladies, your book called Stretch: How to Future-Proof Yourself for Tomorrow's Workplace is phenomenal. I am so excited to share this resource with my clients and my audience, and I'm eager to dive into a conversation with both of you. So let's dive right in. What did your research uncover as the number one workplace concern for people?
Well, we did this wonderful twin study. So we asked 2,700 executives and 2,700 employees. So that's 5,400 people altogether. It's really hard, particularly this year in the election season, to think that 5,400 people would agree about anything.
Right.
But the number one thing that people agreed about was that they're concerned that their skills were becoming obsolete in the workplace. And it was a really surprising finding for us. It's not what we expected. It's not what we were looking for. As a matter of fact, Karie and I were really researching differences between millennials and baby boomers. We thought that's where we were going to be. And then this very surprising piece of data came forward that just said that everybody has this anxiety in the workplace today. And we thought, what can we do to help people overcome that feeling of being feeling like they've reached their sell-by date?
So, Barbara, the survey respondents then were multi-generational, correct? They were not one particular age group.
Absolutely. It was all across every single different age group. This is actually interesting finding, Carolyn, is that on this particular topic, there were not differences in responses, whether you were a millennial or a baby boomer or a Gen Xer. Everybody felt universally that they were nervous about the future, about their skills becoming obsolete.
So let's dive deeper, ladies. What's really changed about the job market and society at large to cause this concern?
There's just a number of changes. One big one, of course, is how much data there is in the world, and so you can't know everything. I don't know if your nightstand has the pile of books that mine does, but you don't feel like you can keep up with it all.
Exactly right.
Yeah, and that leads to there's just a lot of complexity, and people are, we're at some of our most productive moments ever, so we don't feel like we have time. When you're in the workday, it feels like it's hard enough to keep up with today, much less get ready for tomorrow. And then these new technologies that are just amazing. What I'm most looking forward to is the robotic kitchen, which I was just looking at. Because we need those things to help us get work off our plate. And I think the most productive people and the most effective people for the future are going to be those that can partner with all of those things.
So true. Ladies, you write so eloquently in the book about the likelihood of we as professionals having that sell-by date where our jobs become obsolete. So how likely is that? Is that really a reasonable fear, or is this just nervous people overreacting?
I think at this point in time, it's a reality. And so what we're seeing is that the World Economic Forum earlier this year said that 5.1 million jobs are going to go away in the next 5 years. Oxford, in their study, said 1 out of 2 jobs is in danger of changing because of automation. So I think what we're seeing is that it's this kind of robot age. Of course, Carrie's anxious for the robotic kitchen, but what's happening is that things that can be easily integrated into technology will go away. That doesn't mean that there's not going to be plenty of job opportunity in the future, but it probably means that we're going to have to shift in the jobs that we're in, see different jobs in our career in the future. So lots of new opportunities.
John F. Kennedy said, I'm paraphrasing here, that if mankind is smart enough to develop new technology that takes away jobs, we're also smart enough to find the jobs to replace those that have gone away. And I have a optimistic view of where this is going, but it is going to mean a shift for people.
Yeah.
And I mean, part of the reason we called this stretch is it's going to mean stretching all the time, not just, oh gosh, next year I've got to get ready for something. We've just got to kind of keep moving, inching forward ourselves in order to stay current.
Well, and I appreciate that both of you are very solution-oriented, right? So stretch is not a negative term or a painful term, right? It doesn't mean no pain, no gain. It just means it's an opportunity to expand, perhaps, on your comfort zone and your skill set and your experience. So what about that in this really high-risk job market? What's the first step in stretching?
I think if you think about having a looming sell-by date, what you don't want to do is wait until the day of that date.
Right.
Or like I do when I look at the milk in the refrigerator, I just hope that when I open it and smell it, that I can exceed the sell-by date.
One more cup of coffee, please.
So
Right.
The first thing you've got to recognize is that it's really on you, and it's on you to take action for your career and to do it right away. Often I think we've thought that our organizations would provide professional development opportunities, or maybe our boss would do that, or colleagues would inspire us to, hey, come take a class with me, or listen to this podcast. But what we're seeing increasingly is that people are so busy at work, and most of the professional development that happens today is about compliance, and it's not about really stretching your skills. So our number one takeaway was that you've really got to take control of your own career, and if you do that, the possibilities are endless.
And it really is a race to be relevant, right? To not become obsolete.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm so grateful that you really put the onus and the permission to pursue professional development on the individual, because I agree that's something that I see widely in organizations. That was the first thing to be cut financially in the recession. That line item went. And there are so many opportunities now to learn and micro-credential and, check out virtual resources. So the opportunities are out there, but you've got to be proactive.
Absolutely. And, it's not only that you've got to be proactive, it's that you've got to pursue multiple options.
Yeah.
One of the things people told us was they need a lot of options. It can't just be, here's the one path to get there. There needs to be many paths. And so that's partly what we tried to solve to as well, was give lots of strategies so that people could just pick just a few and make sure they were making progress.
So you speak in the book about the definition of the word job changing in the future. Can you speak to that?
Well, yes. You're probably well familiar with models like Airbnb and Uber and so on, where people essentially pick up gigs. And I think that the world is just going to become increasingly gig-oriented, even in the jobs that we think of as full-time employee jobs. In our survey, 83% of executives said that they plan on using more contingent, flexible, part-time workers. And so to get 83% of executives to agree is like getting them to agree the sun rises in the east. It just doesn't happen.
Right.
But they did. And so I think we're going to have our organizations that we work with are going to be not the same boundaries. It won't be who's an employee. It's many other people who come in and out of being an employee. as we traditionally think of it. And jobs being more flexible. Do you move into a manager job this year, but next year you're you're one of the peers on the team because it's who makes sense for the role at the time. I think we're moving much more towards a flexibility about what we're calling a job.
I would agree. Perhaps, ladies, you've heard the term Plan C professional, and it is this hybrid opportunity to have perhaps that day job, whether it's full time or part-time or some variation thereof, but it might come with benefits or some accoutrement of retirement and healthcare. But then you're flexing your entrepreneurial muscles on the side. And I find as a career coach, people are puzzling together beautiful, what I would say, full-time, well-rounded jobs, and I put that in air quotes, that don't look like the traditional 40-plus hour work week of yesterday.
Absolutely. Some people are doing, they might be selling something on Etsy. They might be driving a Uber on the side. They might have a particular career direction they want to go, so they're very intentional with whatever side gigs they're willing to pick up. But it is this sense that you can't expect that your career and your organization, the way it's lined up today, is going to stay that way. So the whole idea of the career ladder seems to be pretty much gone. I mean, some people talk about it as a lattice. Some people talk about it as being able to zigzag through your career. But it is the idea that if you do this, then this is going to happen next. That's not really the mindset that we see for people who are able to stay relevant today.
Yeah, the predictability is gone. So you use a phrase that I just love, learning a living. So unpack that more for me and explain why this is just essential. It's really essential for every professional today.
I had a friend, his name is Chris James, and he actually, I think, coined that phrase because he realized there was a point at which he was somewhat stuck in his career. He'd been in the same level for a number of years and just hadn't been able to promote to the vice president role. And other people had been named over him, and he was just feeling very stuck. And he reached out for feedback, and he's a wonderful learner, and it was like this breakthrough moment for him. So I agree with Carol Dweck, who says we cannot even begin to know human potential because we're such learning machines, and he just turned into a learning machine from that point in terms of really persevering in his career. And so he came up with this phrase, I now recognize that if I'm going to make a living, the kind of living I want, I need to be learning a living.
I love it. I love it. And that intellectual curiosity, I think, is such an important competency for all of us throughout our career lives and our professional lives. So, ladies, I chuckled when we read the press kit and you talked about how learning on the job is different than learning in the classroom, because I often tell the story about how I earned my MBA on the streets. And I say that with a chuckle in my voice because I don't have an MBA credential, but I learned the world of business by doing. So help me understand your lens of how learning the job is different than learning in a classroom.
What we see today is that people learn a functional skill, perhaps in college. As a college president, I certainly hope that happens. They leave with a really solid functional skill. But what they really need across their course of their career is this openness to being able to continue to learn. Because what you've learned functionally is almost out of date the next day. So you have to keep learning the new processes, the new methods that are going on. If you're a biologist, I mean, the changes are just dramatic day by day. So it's our sense that if you can pick up those kinds of skills, we were just talking about them a little bit, like curiosity, problem solving, good communication skills, and be open to always trying something a different way, or rather than walking into a meeting, I just read the other day that there are over 10 million meetings a year that happen, and no wonder why we all hate them so much.
Death by meeting.
but you can walk into a meeting with a perspective of, maybe I can learn a little bit more from this meeting. We sort of call it a development stance. So sometimes it's like, I'm just going to go in and the meeting's going to get done quickly and I'm going to be out of here. But there are other times when you go in and try a different method to involve more people in the problem solving, or to really take a different approach to the agenda that you have for the day. So it is this perspective on learning where you stay open to learning on the fly. You don't close yourself off to, I'm just going to do it the way I've always done it.
It's fascinating when I think about our college graduates, the class of 2020, a few years down the road, there are career opportunities that we don't even know about today that they will have access to because our world of work is changing so rapidly. So I love that constant opportunity to learn and grow and develop. It's essential.
Yes.
It is, but if I were to ask you if you were a great breather, you'd probably say yes.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll just have to go to a yoga class to realize, oh gosh, you know nothing about breathing until you've learned some additional practices about the art of breathing. And I think the same thing is true about learning. So we're all good learners. That's a natural human condition. But you can learn new things to help you learn on the job, to help you pay attention and to reflect and to be open. And that's what we're really trying to achieve with the book.
So let's talk about your emphasis for professionals to be greedy about experiences. Tell me more about that.
Well, often people don't think of greedy as a good term, but what we see is that in order to be prepared for the future, you need a wide range of experiences. We were talking a little earlier about the gig economy. You want to be able to have that kind of breadth of experiences that would prepare you for a wide range of possibilities. So what we really like to suggest is that you put your hand up and volunteer for things. And we find that that's something that is difficult for people to do in the workplace because one of the guys that we interviewed said, well, if I put my hand up, if I volunteer for something, then the next thing you know, they're going to ask me to do the next thing. And then I might end up being the manager, and then I'd have problems all the time. But, in the meantime, if you don't volunteer for new experiences, then you really restrict yourself to the same set of knowledge that you've always had. And you don't make yourself as valuable in your workplace as you could be. So it is about maybe going outside your comfort zone and stretching a little bit to try things that you might not normally have tried. You might not like them all, but you'll learn a lot along the way.
Absolutely.
We had one woman who was talking with someone, and she said she realized suddenly that she'd had the same year of experience repeated 5 times.
Little Groundhog's Day.
Yeah. So are you essentially getting that same experience? And there really is no person behind the curtain who cares about your career and is doing something about it. It has to be you that reaches out. This is where you have to be self-focused in a sense, or greedy, and say, I need more than repeating the same year of experience next year. I need to get an expanded view of the world and expand my skill set.
I couldn't agree more. We really do individually have a responsibility to invest in our own career future. And I think that's what this book is so rich with resources and action steps. And I'm grateful to that. And I've been sharing it with my coaching clients. But I want to whet the appetite of all those out there who have not read it yet. Give us one other action step, ladies, about how we can stretch and future-proof ourselves for tomorrow's workplace. What's one other idea to get us started?
Well, one of the things that we really like is a piece of wisdom that came originally from Warren Buffett, which is to hang out with people better than you, and you cannot help but improve. Yeah. So what we suggest is that, just to step a little bit aside from your LinkedIn networks and your Twitter networks and think about just the 5 people that can help you thrive in the year ahead. The 5 people who make you think a little deeper or make you feel like a better person after you've spent some time with them, and really reach out to those 5 people. Today so many people say that I've got this big, broad network, but I don't have anybody to call when I need a favor or when I've got to learn something new or when something happens in my industry that I had no control over. So what we're saying is you get 5 people in your network today and spend some time with those people. And that's the best tip I think we can give you.
Yeah, 5 to thrive, and meet with them at least 4 times a year. I found that when I looked at my list, I wasn't meeting with them as regularly as I thought. Every time I was with them, I felt wonderful. I got some new idea or some inspiration, but then I just didn't carefully consider spending time with them. And so it's bringing it to a conscious level that you look for those people. Because the number one thing people told us about when we asked them, how do you avoid becoming obsolete, was they said, I hang around smart people.
Fly with the eagles. I love
Yes.
it. I love it.
Five
I
to
love
thrive.
it. So, Karie and Barbara, your book is Stretch: How to Future-Proof Yourself for Tomorrow's Workplace. How can we buy your book, and how can we find you online and communicate with you after the show?
Absolutely. We've got a website, Stretch the Book, so you can go directly to that. And plenty of options to get to the book from there, or of course you can get to the book via Amazon as well. So it's Stretch: How to Future-Proof Yourself for Tomorrow's Workplace.
You can download the first chapter free
Yes,
at our
you can.
website.
And I would strongly encourage all of our listeners to do that very thing. What a joy to have you both on. I hope our professional paths cross in person next time. And it's been lovely to have you on the show. Thank you for your time and your expertise.
Thank you, Carolyn. It's
Thank
great to be
you.
with you. Thank you.
And I want to thank all of you for tuning in to Your Working Life, where my goal is to help you design your career destiny so it doesn't happen by default. Career and life satisfaction is possible, and it's time to embrace what you love doing so you can do more of it. My show is now available on iTunes, YouTube, Podbean, and Stitcher. Leave a comment, as I always appreciate hearing from my listeners. I'm Caroline Dowd-Higgins. Take good care.